Hello there, Unshakable family. This is Nicole. And before we start the November transit episode, I did want to let you guys know that we will be hosting our final Authority Accelerator Masterclass starting on November 10th. If you are interested in building a business according to your human design, in being the most magnetic, most powerful version of you, and having a business that matches that magnetism and that can support it so that you are aligned and profitable, not just aligned, because no one wants to be aligned and starving, aligned and profitable, you will want to come to this. So all you have to do to register is go to Instagram. I'm at Nicole Leno Official. DM me the word masterclass and we'll register you right there in the DMs. Or go to NicoleLeno.com/masterclass and you can register on the website. Thanks. Enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design. I'm your host, Nicole Leno, and I am here not by myself today. It is, of course, it is the start of the month. So we are doing our monthly November Human Design and Astrology Transits, which would not be the same without my lovely and talented co-host and friend, Miss Christina Luna. Hello, love.
Hello, Nicole.
How are you doing?
I, as I said, I'm doing so much better now, and it's been because I've really dug into some things this Libra season, and now that we're in Scorpio season, man, I feel like I've had some breakthroughs, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it, and I'm excited to see how the listeners are navigating this Scorpio season.
Mm. Well, we're just starting it. Now we're like right at the top of Scorpio season as we are recording this.
Mhm.
Um, but what was Libra season like for you? What were you feeling?
Well, it was our first Libra season since all the eclipses over the last
Hmm.
18 months or so, 2 years or so, really. So it was the first time that we maybe came to a place of stability in the equations of our relationships. And then what I found was really interesting is now that we've landed in this place where we're stable, where we're balancing out those equations, how is my animal self feeling about that? Was I previously driven to balance equations and that was what was exciting for me? Was there a part of me that found myself bored with the balance? Like, how is my nervous system handling prolonged moments of relative peace? And do I invent karma or drama because I actually just like having something to work on with my psyche? And so I really sat with a lot of restlessness without action during the month of Libra so that I could see what I want to transform in a healthy way, not out of um not just for the sake of stirring up the pot.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see like, ooh, what if I just handle stability for a while? How would that make me feel if nothing changed and if I just managed to maintain equilibrium? And that's a weird thing because most of my life I was trying to create equilibrium, not hold it. So I'm wondering if that was experienced at all in your life.
Yeah, so I was grateful that I had our quarterly reading and you and I had spoken where, you had told me, like, I told you I've been feeling some shifts. There are some things that I know are changing. There are some things that I'm taking on. I think I have been in a state of stability and maybe fear of change a little bit. And I've been feeling these changes, and I know that I'm a marinator. I'm somebody who, I know myself. I know that inspiration for me comes through confusion. Like that's how it works, confusion and doubt, but first confusion. So I get really turned around when new things are introduced. And that is a natural thing for me to have to go through in all of my processes, is where I have to, you know, there's going to be this chaotic time of me going like, I don't know what I'm going to do and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And if I get caught up in that feeling of, but I've got to do it and I've got to do it now, then I drive myself crazy and usually make bad decisions. I don't do this so much anymore. This is why I give myself a long time that I honor a feeling of something like a change is coming, and I really let it brew. I really let that stuff hang out in the background. I really let it hang out in my experience. And I've been doing that for months now. And I came to it now, and you had told me, you were like, you might feel like you want to like pull the trigger on something, but if you could hang out until Scorpio season, you'll probably be really happy that you did. And I thought about that the whole time because I was definitely feeling like, and I did some work. It wasn't like I didn't do anything, but I didn't make any big decision or big announcement or grand gesture that was going to change a lot fundamentally in my life. I launched a
Mhm.
little mini program that was really fun and really exciting, and we got great feedback from it. All of that served me, wore me out a little bit. I was like, this was a lot of work for a tiny little program. It was I put a lot into it, but it was all very fruitful. Like I kind of worked through some of my stuff through that. But sitting with it, it's very funny because I sat with the restlessness of wanting to move, but I really like sat with that and was like, well, what am I really feeling here? Am I sitting on an impulse to create something that truly wants to be created now? Or am I uncomfortable because I'm restless and I want to move to make the discomfort go away because moving feels better than sitting with it? And
Mm.
it was the latter. I was like, I'm uncomfortable. I want to move because moving is more comfortable for me to go
Mhm.
and frantically, do stuff. And I refrained from doing that. I did not take that bait. And I sat and I journaled and I like hung with myself and I visualized and I did all of my things. And sure enough, here we are at Scorpio season, and I feel very much like I am in another place.
Mhm.
And I think that's what happens when you do this work a lot. It doesn't just feel like I feel better and I feel worse, which is how I think several years ago I felt about things. It was like, I felt really good and like I'm just having a bad week. And I don't look at it that way anymore, like because I really pay attention to what I'm receiving in these times, and it often isn't good or bad. It's they're lessons that I'm learning. There are things that need to be integrated and worked with, and things are brought up. And if I pay attention, I get the answers that I need for whatever is to come. So that I feel right now, like Scorpio season, like I'm like, oh, it feels like go time again. It feels like a lot of that confusion has settled and given way to a lot of clarity.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Well, the thing that's interesting about waiting and like holding the restless feeling and not moving just for moving's sake, like waiting for the incubation of those sensations is it transforms you on the inside so that when you
Mhm.
begin taking those actions, they're the aligned action, not just arbitrary moving away from pain or moving away from discomfort to try
Yeah.
and seek some new experience. And I felt a lot of that um, sort of vague, dissatisfied sensation in Libra season 2, but then, right, like, as we're recording this, we're moving into Scorpio season, right? And already I'm sensing this depth, like, somehow holding my center, holding the balance, and being patient and waiting for the energy to do its thing has taken me into a deeper octave of what's true for me, and the ultimate result is that I've been able to see something a lot more clearly, but now I'm under and shortcut, the thing I'm seeing is that we're creating from our unconscious, and when we've got that kind of upper mind restlessness, there's probably something deeper, deeper, deeper that's brewing that's trying to manifest.
Mm.
And when we run around in the upper mind, we don't give our energy and our body and our life enough stillness to be able to let that underground intensity bubble to the surface to actually manifest into something. And so what I've found even already this week is deeper subterranean energy is surfacing that's allowing me to magnify in on things I couldn't see so clearly in the upper mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's beginning to manifest in a way that I probably wouldn't have created it from the upper mind if I had like jumped into it too fast. I would have tried to come up with a solution mentally that actually has a deeper manifestation that wants to surface that's coming through. I'm grasping at words, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you mean because I look at it like to me, that's like inactive prep time, like in a recipe when you have something that needs to marinate for 2 hours, or you need something like in order to deepen the flavor, we need to let it do its thing and we need to forget about it. We need to don't open the oven, like just let it do its thing and trust that that will have some benefit, that the recipe is going to come out the way it's meant to. And does that feel,
Yes.
yeah.
What did you call it?
Inact
Inactive time?
like if you look at a recipe and it tells you how long will it take you to make this, how long is the prep time? It'll tell you like, 1 hour of cooking time and 2 hours of inactive prep. Like if you make pizza takes
Oh,
5 minutes to cook, but it takes 4 hours if you make the dough, because the dough has, and it doesn't take you 4 hours. You're not sitting there making dough for 4 hours.
oh my
You
gosh.
do the thing, you put it in a bowl with oil and you put a towel over it, and then you leave the house for an hour, and then you come
You
back, punch it, turn it, put the towel back on, and you leave the house again for an hour, or you go clean or something.
this
That's
okay.
that's how I look at like all of this stuff.
You just gave language. Okay, that I think we need to
Did we have a
relabel.
mind meld right there?
Good. We need to relabel Libra season as inactive prep time.
And that was
Letting
how it felt
both
for me.
sides of the equation do what they do without your active participation making something happen.
Which isn't that what this work a lot of times is? Like I feel like with human design, and there's active things that you're doing, you're following your strategy and authority and all of that stuff. But the when people are learning about their charts, I was saying that in I just the program I did was called Answering the Call, and it was all about your incarnation cross and your purpose. And that people want to figure out their purpose, and I'm like, there's a lot of inactive prep time in this. Like it was a like a 2 week run that we did. It's a quick course. I was like, there's no way when you get done with listening to 10, good lessons in a podcast, like a private podcast feed, and do these live lessons with me and these live sessions and all of this stuff, and you do the work that we gave you, you know, you're going to get far, but they're an activation that now you're going to go forth in your life. And now it's the inactive prep time. Now it's the like gentle contemplation. It's paying attention to these things. It's knowing they exist and then going about your life and letting it do something internally that you're not. The more active prep time that you put in where you're trying to figure it out, usually the longer it will take or you'll ruin it. And that's the hardest part for me to get through to people a lot of times, is that this is this is passive work. And there are certain people who are built where that's actually their way, but they're so used to trying to be focused that they've like conditioned themselves to be like uber focused. And then some people are actually designed very focused, and it's very hard for them to lean back at all. It's not their natural way. And I think that that's why like naturally contemplative, or people who have like, identify with having like ADHD and they can't stay focused, it's like it almost works better for you people because you can be swimming around and you're not thinking about it because your brain literally is going someplace else for a while. Excellent. Because you ruin the recipe when you keep open the damn oven or checking to see if it's ready.
Okay, so I definitely think I'm the kind of person that believes I have to have an active role in things all the time. And even though this is my craft and this is what I study, I mean, obviously this is my medicine. I have this because even when there's seasons where I'm meant to be inactive, I need to be doing something to prove, to like assure myself it's okay to just let the oven heat up. It's okay. Just let the dough rise. And so, and sometimes it's a little more comfortable than other times. And this past one, I had several physical manifestations in my world kind of giving me the same message over and over. Just wait,
Yeah.
just sit, just be with it. Nope, nope, you don't get news on that. You don't get to know. You can cut it open, you can look around, but you don't get to know
Mm.
until it's going to surface naturally. And it's going to surface naturally as time passes. And now we're in Scorpio season and it feels like enough time has passed. I get to see how it's cooking. And it's cooking and it's good and it's interesting and it's definitely not boring. And I think that the rest of Scorpio season is going to be a lot more of that.
It's not going to be a boring month, that's for sure. I did want to say, because I was looking up your chart while you were saying, I think I'm one of those like, thinks they need to be strategic or focused, and I'm really not meant to be. And you are. It's funny enough, you have the same, we call it variables or cognition, and, the arrows on your human design chart. You have the same configuration as I do. There are 4 arrows. You have the same 3 as mine that face right, and you have 1 that faces left, and it's the same ones I have. And what we have is a passive brain and an active mind, a strategic mind. And this will fuck you up like nothing else because your brain is saying, I don't work like that. It's like a brain that has no file, like a computer that has no files. There's a lot of data in there, but it's not indexed. So we can't just sit down and be like, I'm going to create this thing today. It doesn't really work that way for us. And
Yeah.
we want it to so badly because our mind is strategic, being like, what are we going to create today? But it's like talking to, it's like in Zoolander where they go to break in, the 2 idiots models, they break into the office to get the files out of the computer and they're banging it like apes, and they're going, they're in the computer, where are the files, they're in the computer, and they're banging it around and they throw it, they're like, here are the files, they throw it. That's like what we're doing. There's like a strategic thing inside that's going, that's like batting around this computer, being like, how do we get them out? And the way that you get it out is to be asked. So when you are in relationship with somebody and they're asking you about their chart or about their life, you receive, and it
Easy.
flies out of your mouth without you having to try.
Easy.
But the
Totally.
minute
It's
you're like, now I'm going to go create this thing, and it's like, where did all of my wisdom go? It's not here.
exactly, which
Yeah.
is why creating content is so challenging when you
Yes.
don't have, I have to create the structure. Like using astrology works because it's almost as though the astrology is asking me the question.
Same.
And so when I can look at the transit, I can be like, the question of this transit is, what is this going to feel like? And so I answer that question and
Yep.
I'm able to speak from that place. And especially when I'm doing it for a person, because then you have the extra lens of they want to know how this will feel for them. So then I get to put all the inputs together. But when I'm just, you know, that's the strangest experience of me is that when I'm not being asked, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I don't know anything about anything unless somehow I'm activated, and I don't know how to activate it unless it comes from some kind of stimulus.
For us, we're manifesting generators. So I usually go to response. It's like, this is where I will go and try to inspire myself. I'll look at my Telegram chat from Business by Design clients. I will look at old content that I've written. I'll listen to my own coaching calls and be like, where was I? Like, I know I said some smart things in here. And I get energized by it or not. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, none of that did it for me. It sucks. But Ra always said that people like us, if you put us around idiots, we're idiots. If you put us around geniuses, we're geniuses. Because it's all about who's asking us the questions. It's all about what we're in the environment of. If who's pulling, he said, always said, like, we're like a well of information and a
Mhm.
resource in that way. But who's drinking from your well determines the quality of what's in your well. Because if people are asking you dumb questions, you're just going to be like, you're equal to that. But the minute someone starts asking you something high level and you start to see what you know, and that absolutely happens to me all the time.
Me too. I definitely feel that's field based as well, or timeline based. I have completely different story trajectories based on where the client is. If the
Hmm.
client is really navigating, like, let's say they're in their early 20s and they're really navigating like certain things, I might not even really know that that's the information, but all the information that's coming through is exactly geared towards someone who's navigating that terrain. And if I talk to another person who, man, they understand heart math and they're into all of this extra dimensional
Hmm.
experiences, then the messages have this language to them that I definitely wouldn't use with the other client.
Yep.
It's very interesting and baffles me at times because often I've been like, who am I even? Who am I even? Do I even have my own ideas? I really have struggled, like, I don't think I have any of my own ideas. I think I allow energies to sit at the table of my mind, and I get to choose who sits at that table, and luckily, I've chosen some folks I enjoy hanging out with in my brain, but
Hmm.
like, having these, energy reports with you is exciting because you and I have these brains that tap into these maps, and so then the information that comes through, obviously we're tailoring it to people who are listening. And so we have the listener as the questioner, and then we have the maps, and then we get to cross pollinate, and it does create a certain synergy.
It does. And I notice that with readings and with all the sessions that I do with people, it's that they make a difference. You know, they bring the energy and I'm only as good as the person sitting across from me. So, this is, and so all of that to say that Libra season was a big lesson in that inactive prep time, that allowing, which for some of us is a big lesson in our lives a lot of times. But and that's what these seasons do. They strengthen us in different ways, or we don't learn the lessons and we're doomed to repeat them. But that was the big headline for me. And I was grateful that I had, our session where I knew what was coming, so I didn't take the bait to jump on the things that, I had you in my head where I was like, I could hear you saying, if you could wait till Scorpio season or the start of November, you're probably going to be happy you did. And I feel that because I feel like I've been getting ready for what's coming. And I feel very different now than I
Mm.
did a few weeks ago.
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad.
So should we dive into Scorpio season and what
We
November is going to look like for our
we
people?
absolutely should. Yes. Um, the main shift that I've noticed is we're going from a month that kind of had this squaring off, these kind of equalizing equations. We're going from kind of our relationship to our mental state and how the mental state creates our experiences or tells our stories. We're shifting all from that to the facilitation of energy moving. It is going to be very feminine, very watery, very flowing. It will feel very comfortable to people that like to go with the flow, who are nonlinear, who are more sensation first, mental last, who enjoy kind of throwing their hands in the air, who say, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, it is going to be the kind of month that's great for those folks. And it will be a month where if your knuckles are dug in real hard to the things that you grip, it could feel like you're getting blasted,
Mm.
waterboarded by the universe. And so I'm hoping that we can give some perspective on the most graceful way to navigate this season.
Yeah, let's do it. I want to call out just a couple of things. So we have had the nodes are staying the same from an astrological standpoint, but from a human design standpoint, they actually shift at the beginning of November. We have been learning the balance of grace with um, Gate 47 is where the South Node has been, which is very much about mindset and thinking how your mind can be the oppressor in your life. And it's about, we've been learning like emotional wisdom and allowing. And now we're going into, we shift from gate 22, our north node now goes into gate 63, which is doubt, which is its pairing partner in the south node is confusion. So what you might see here is that the trajectory of the world might go into a lot of, because this will be a collective thing that everybody is experiencing. On the 3rd of November, we shift over into gate 63 for the nodes, for the north node. And that might bring, might be a time where you might see people, I don't know, there's already a war on facts. There's already a war on what is the truth. People are doubting a lot right now. But the lesson of this is to question better, is to inquire, to not just assume everybody is lying, to not just assume that things are wrong, to not be stubborn in your thinking, and to be really open to questioning, because that's where possibility is. So we're going to be in this stretch for several months. So this is kicking off kind of a new phase, as far as like this is, it's still Pisces, but it's a different vibe of Pisces from a human design perspective. It's much more analytical, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting for Pisces.
Well, and I always look at it like, because this is my conscious earth. So these are my big gates. 63, it's analytical, but from like, if consciousness could be analytical, if we were trying to figure out the mysteries of the universe through trying to prove them, it's that kind of thing. It's Joe Dispenza, who tries to explain what consciousness is in a linear kind of easy to understand fashion, who is pasting electrodes to people's heads to get brain scans during the meditation to prove it works. It's that kind of analytical. It's not analytical like facts and figures necessarily. It's saying, how can we think better so we can have a better future?
Oh my gosh. Okay, that is thank you for taking the time to explain this. So the energy I have for that week, it so mirrors that. There are so many hopes, dreams, and fears and potential possibilities that the only way you can really understand the cause and effect in our lives is if we play around analytically with, if I feel and think this, then this happens. So it's sort of similar to what you said about Joe Dispenza, actually proving something to yourself, proving how you are taking an active role in the outcomes and the transformations that are going on. If I feel this way, if I behave this way, if I desire this, and I'm very honest about that, then these things happen in my life. The conversation goes in this direction. I get this feedback. I receive this manifestation. And we have a full moon in that first week that sort of shows us the proving of whatever analytical investigation we do about that. Because it's true, there's so many different potentials. There's so many different ways it could go, ways we could think about it, ways we could feel about it, ways we could navigate our desire. So what if we actually just start doing it like a study? That's such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful way of approaching a week like this or a time period like this.
Yeah, and I think that that's a lesson that we have to learn, is that, and I think that we see this too, like with there's a myriad of possibilities out there that, maybe it isn't best to just accept them on face. Maybe it is great to ask some really good questions and dig deeper, or before you poo-poo them, to ask a better question. That's the lesson of this gate, is to, I love the Tony Robbins, I think it's Tony Robbins, it's where I heard it. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask. That to me is gate 63 in one sentence. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask. So we're going into a phase of life for the next few months where the quality of your life might be determined by the quality of questions you ask. So can you get into the habit of asking really good questions about, instead of, a bad question is like, why is this happening to me? from a victim place, but you could be saying, what could I learn from this? That's kind of the vibe of the questioning. But that first week, we have there's so much going on. And I was saying to you before we started the call, there's a few gates that just ping pong because we have a retrograde in here that's causing things to kind of go back and forth. Where the 34th gate is showing up several times in the month. So it's in Mercury for the first month, the gate of power. I should say what that is. It's in the sacral center. So if you have an undefined sacral, this is a really powerful gate that maybe is connecting to something. It connects to 3 other gates in the chart. So you very well may have this activating your sacral at the time, which might feel like a lot. But we have it in Mercury for the first week. Then it goes to Mars for the week after through the 12th. And then it goes back to from the 13th to the 18th. We have it in Mercury again. And then at the end of the month, we almost close out the month from the 22nd to the 27th. That's where the sun is. So this is just going to be very, very strong energy. This is like basically the whole month. 34 is about personal power. It is about recognizing your own, that personal power comes through doing the things that make you feel good, that feel true to you, that feel right to you. And you have the ability to fight for things with that personal power. And they can be for you or they can be for other people. And that is just, there's a bit of a warrior in that, but it's like, it's fighting for for what I care about, for what I want to do. And that's just an energy that follows us all month long. So notice where your personal power maybe is getting challenged, or maybe where you're forcing things, because that is the shadow of this gate. So you might find yourself battling force, especially if you are a projector or somebody who does not have a defined sacral. This might be something that triggers you a little bit. It might throw your energy off because you're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can cause us to be looking at the shadow a lot. So that one is going to follow us. And then that, the first, like right after the 4th through the 10th, we are just in a place of really, it's like it's personal power. And then it's like, who the hell am I? What unique thing do I have to offer this world? Gate 1 is in the transits. That's where the sun is during that second week. And this is I love who I am. I love being me, and I'm going to show the world. And there's going to be that energy that's going to challenge you. It's either going to make you feel really creatively driven, or the shadow is to feel like you have no creativity and you have so much to put out, but you cannot put it out. But what's interesting about this particular week is Uranus moves into the 8th gate, which gives everybody the channel, this channel of creativity, the 1-8 channel that runs from the G center to the throat. So everybody, I have the 1 in my chart and I don't have the 8. So sometimes it feels like I have creativity that I cannot express, that I can't always show up and be the creative expression of me. I can be creative in different ways, but that part can sometimes feel difficult. I'm not always great at putting it out there. Everybody's going to have consistency in that space for that week. So we get that doesn't normally happen. So that's an interesting little aspect that we have going on there.
Wow. Okay. So just generally, I'm so happy you touched on power. I'm so happy you touched on creative power, transformational power, our relationship with power dynamics. There will be a lot coming up this month around power, and Scorpio also rules things that have power over us, or things that we exert our power over, whether consciously or unconsciously. Scorpio rules traditionally like sex, debts, inheritance from people that we're in relationships with, contracts, intimacy, of course, the things that change or transform through intensity. But also desire. And this month we have Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio also. And when we have Black Moon Lilith moving through a place like Scorpio during a time when so many things are dredging up, the unconscious, deeper, subterranean parts of ourselves, um, power dynamics throughout our lives, including power dynamics we're not conscious of, could surface. And this could be subtly understanding how our patterns manipulate power. What are we using in our arsenal to have power over things? Do we have to have that power because we feel dependent on getting our needs met through those things? There's a lot of shadowy questions we can ask that we might all be a little bit afraid to acknowledge. And this might be related to sexual energy. This might be related to what turns us on, even if it's not sexual. What turns you on enough to show up and speak? What turns you on enough to say the truth? What turns you on enough to do things that you wouldn't safely do to keep the peace, you know? Like there's a lot of that material that can surface, and I think we'll see the first kind of stirrings of that, revealing information to us about who we are. You talked about identity in that first week. Once we know more about who we are, identity becomes a huge driver of behavior.
Yes.
And so using the first week of November could have us driving our behavior completely differently from the 9th onward. We've got a couple of retrogrades starting between the 9th was Mercury, and then the 11th is Jupiter. We could find that we used to keep the peace, or we used to take care of someone, or we used to ask for our needs to be met certain ways. And with this understanding that comes, we may find that we're walking away from old patterns that we were operating subconsciously with for a really long time, that we're no longer in alignment with. And so I think we're going to see a lot of like, that's the end of the line, that, and it won't be dramatic. It'll be that the truth is so obvious. There's no way for that unconscious pattern to play out anymore. And the thing that's weird is that after you resolve some of these things, there can be a huge swoop, whether it's emotions sinking into the heart or expression flowing out. There can be a huge sweep of energy that pours out from resolutions like that. And I think that's what we will see very powerfully between the 16th and the 22nd. Lots and lots of water moving, fear moving out, flow moving through, healing happening. But I definitely think it's due to this deeper investigation we have with the subterranean, fearful, suppressed, repressed dynamics around sexual energy, power, desire, etc.
Well, Scorpio is kind of the time when a lot of that stuff, or the sign where a lot of things become unearthed, right? It's the underworld. It is the things that are beneath the surface. You brought up, you said something I never heard it put this way before. And I have, you've all heard me talk about, I have tons of Scorpio on my chart. But you said debts, and then you said things that have power over us. And I remember just a few years ago, one of my biggest breakthroughs with my money mindset and money energy work was realizing that I felt dominated by money. And that was one of the biggest shifts for me. And I never made the connection between Scorpio and just all of the energy in my chart, that is all the planets that I have in Scorpio. But that was one of my biggest breakthroughs, was realizing that dynamic and being able to figuring out how to work through it. And so this Scorpio is always a time, Scorpio season. I think it's a challenging time because I think some unexpected things can come up. Some of that stuff that's been percolating might be unpleasant when it comes to the surface, and some of it, but it gives way to something that you can finally let it go. It's funny, I'm reading a book with my son. I'm reading the Percy Jackson books, and it's the gods, and the son of Pluto is Hades, and when he gets upset, bones start rising from the ground. and skeletons start to form and stuff like that. And that's sort of how I feel about this, is that it's like, oh, well, when we get triggered, or when we get the old stuff can start rising from the ground, but that's what we have to do to move past it. We have to allow them to resurface. That's been like the story of my life. One other thing I wanted to mention, Mercury and Mars have like a little conjunct on like the 12th, 13, where they're both, from a human design perspective, they're both in gate 9. This is about focus. This is about concentration. This is a time where, and everything with this stuff is to have it or to not have it. You're either going to have focus, or you're going to find really, really hard to be focusing. And you can really, and where the trap is to really get stuck in the details, which is, there's a fine line between being detail oriented and being stuck in the details. And that's going to be a time where there's probably going to be something that falls into focus at this moment. Don't get lost there. Allow it to arrive. Don't push it too hard, because usually that's where people get stuck and end up in the not so great aspect of this particular gate. I see a lot of people end up there where they miss the forest for the trees. They're staring at one thing, so they miss the whole picture. Something there could have the ability to really show up for you, but only if you are open. You'll get that path.
Yeah, and since both of them are conjunct in Sagittarius, sometimes when truths are held back for a long time and then they're finally expressed, they can bring a lot of energy with them. And it can be, usually they say it wasn't about the dishes. It wasn't about because you have all this energy behind
Yeah.
the words. And finally, we get that alignment where the words and the ego expression and the motion and just that truth moment, it can come out like you're like, whew, I remember a time in my life when I said a truth that I had been holding back, holding back, holding back. And when I said it, I wished I could have grabbed each word and pulled them back in, because I knew that once I said it, it would change everything. And it did.
Yeah.
And there was an emotional response to that being shared, because the truth transforms. And because we have these Sagittarian elements happening in a time where parts of us are digging around in the dark waters of our insides, we might find something and then feel compelled to just bring it all the way to the surface and share it. It might not be incubated. It might not be rational. It might not come with a lot of diplomacy.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that could feel messy, but that mess is absolutely the terrain that creates meaningful change that lasts. That's truly intimate. I saw a video with Emma Watson
Oh.
talking about how she realized intimacy is sharing truths over and over and over that could inevitably give that person the ability to not choose you anymore.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that the truth will make someone not choose us anymore, or that we don't choose something anymore. But while the truth is incubated, there's a lie
Yeah.
below the surface. And we're
Yeah.
trying to keep something in place that's based on subterranean truths not expressed. And so it's a good time to be thinking about the subterranean truths not expressed, why we're not expressing them. That day around the 12th, notice that it could come out, and give everyone as much grace with the expression of that as you would want. Because it might not always be us, the ones,
Right. You might
we
be
could
receiving
be,
it. Yeah.
and it could come out in a really fiery sort of way. And it's important to know that would you rather diplomacy or the truth?
Mm.
Not that you have to sacrifice, but in times like these, we might not all be in our most diplomatic minds.
Right. Well, and yeah, we also have Saturn in gate 36, which is the gate of crisis, which can really it's a very emotional sort of energy that we're working through with that, which can cause us to not be the most diplomatic, for sure. It's
Mhm.
actually the polarity of of diplomacy is this gate of chaos. But what else? What else do you have? Yes, it's the opposite. So as you were saying that, it might not be the most diplomatic. I looked right down at gate 36, and I was like, yeah, that one doesn't do that.
Well, so I think that, we stack something up and we come to a resolution about it. We share that truth during that week between the 9th and the 16th. And then the 16th through the 11th, there's the motion that happens once a truth has been spoken. And we all know moments like this where you finally tell your boss that you're leaving, or you finally tell your husband that you don't feel love for them anymore in the way that they do, or you finally admit to yourself that there's an element of your life missing and you don't want to keep living your life without it. You want it. And so there's pieces that are hard to swallow, but once we do, the motion begins moving and suddenly things go into motion that we no longer have to try to control. It's a faith week. There's a lot of water trines. A lot of things will happen. It really feels like a dam is broken or lifted, and now the water can flow through, and it will take us places that we've been wanting to go, but we didn't know what type of energy we needed to muster to get there. And I love that in the earlier part of this, we talked about the inactive prep.
Yeah.
A lot of us have been doing a lot of inactive prep. And there's this last little piece here where as soon as we shift into the flow of it's water from every direction. It'll be water from the emotional vulnerabilities, emotional needs of safety, water from spiritual faith, spiritual guidance, water from the truths of our own depths. All of that water will come together in a space that will throw us onto the banks of something new. And I think we find it. We find those things by the end of the month. At least we see the rainbow, similar to Noah's Ark, the Noah's Ark story. Seeing the rainbow through the storm, around the 21st, I think you'll see the light shining through the rain, and we'll begin to know that dry land is near, and we'll reconcile all of the water we've passed through and find ourselves in a really passionate place in December.
Yeah, I see that too. I mean, that's kind of where all of this is going. I just keep seeing there are a couple of things, there are a couple of dates that I wanted to point out. There's the 22nd through the 27th. That's I mentioned it talking about the 34th gate. The 34th gate, the polarity is the 20, which everybody will be a manifesting generator at this time. So I want to call that out because it might feel like a really powerful time, or it might feel like, whoa, I usually drive like a comfortable Volvo and now I'm in a McLaren and it's moving really fast and you don't know you're in a McLaren. You're just like, why is my Volvo, you know, behaving like a sports car now? I'm not doing this. I didn't hit the pedal. And that might feel really scary and uncomfortable. But hopefully, if you start to feel like I do this, like when I'm going through something and I start to not feel so great, I'll go back and I look at the transits. I'm not looking at them every day. I don't do that. But I do notice how I feel. And then I'll go back. Either I go back to your reading, I re listen to these shows, and I take a look at the transits and I see what's going on with my chart. And I go, okay, I think I see some things and it makes me not freak out so much. So for all of the projectors, reflectors, and manifestors out there, you're all going to be a manifesting generator for that week. So just know that. Know that so you don't wonder why your Volvo is driving at 140 miles per hour and it feels like nobody's holding the steering wheel. So not to scare anybody, but most of the time when I talk to clients and they tell me things are going on, I pull up the transit chart, and usually I find they either have an activated, they're not used to being emotional and they have an activated emotional system, or they have an activated sacral and they're a non-sacral most of the, all the rest of the time. So it can just be destabilizing.
Mm-hmm. That last week is, I see it as kind of a 10 of fire, and The Ten of Fire is, yeah, we have a lot of energy and we want to put it somewhere. We've collected it and we want a space for it to go. And so there could be this sensation of, what do I do with all this power? And so it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting you called it a McLaren, because it is similar. We will probably have a lot of horsepower available, and it's because we've cleared the dams of resistance. We've faced certain truths. We're allowing the flow to facilitate the movement now, and it frees up a lot of bandwidth. So I think we'll end the month with a lot of personal power and bandwidth available to us, and we have a window of time, you know, in early December leading to Capricorn season, where I think we're going to decide where we want to put all this fire, which direction, what fireplace do we want to put it in, because it's going to keep something warm for a really long time. And I know we're not talking about December, but I'm really excited to record that December episode, because I think we will have a New Year's that feels ready, prepared, grounded, present, and completely calm in our nervous system to build in 2026. And we haven't really had that for a long time. And I'm sharing it now because while November may feel quite unstable, like there's a lot of rapid movement, there's a lot of unknowns, things are moving out of our control, the year does end with us on the shore of a new reality that feels so stable, so valuable, so rich, so able to grow, so productive. And so if we can just give ourselves permission to move through this November, know that we'll find the courage, power, energy, passion in December, and then put it in the right places. That will kind of give us permission to I don't really leverage the value of this month.
Yeah, I love that, and I always feel like this time of year, we're in the quarter of transformation. That's when we actually shift over at the beginning of November. It's that last quarter of the year for the human design wheel. We go into the quarter of transformation, which is about this is about, it culminated. We went through the mind, we went through the concretizing, we went through duality and relationships and connecting with others and putting things out there. And now it's like, okay, what did you learn? This is the time when we're like, and I feel like the November, we're getting used to it, but it is a time of real, like I said, personal power. And this is a time where I usually feel this way in November, and I expect to this year with the transits that I'm seeing, is that it doesn't mean that you have to sit down and plan everything, but you're probably going to be like almost like inactive prep time. You're going to be planning what 2026 looks like. Those ideas are probably going to be dropping in throughout the month, and maybe it's around like Thanksgiving-ish for those Americans, like that 23rd, 24th, 25th, that time of the month where you might have the insights that you've been waiting for to make the decisions that you need. And when you know, it's not going, they're probably not going to necessarily be logical or based on the past. They're going to be just some sort of like drop in knowing that has been brewing for a long time, probably this entire month, because we just have things moving kind of in lockstep where we've been passing the same energies back and forth between all of the planets for so long that we've worked through these things. So the potential is that hopefully that you are at a point where something can drop in for you. And if I see it anywhere, it would probably be around like the end of November, where you might have like that 22nd-ish, 23rd of the month. You might find that you have the ability to, there might be an insight that drops in, and you actually have the discipline to really put it together into a plan.
I completely agree with that timeline.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's after the whoosh of energy.
After the flood.
After the flood,
After
we
the
see
flood.
the rainbow. We know we're headed toward that direction. And yeah, really, it feels like we're going to take a pilgrimage of a certain kind.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like we're going to find ourselves in a new land. And it feels like we've got to go over some water to get there, and a storm. And I think it will all I think it's courageous. I think it's time to call on hero energy.
Yeah.
What does hero energy feel like in your system? Can you write a new hero story? Can this be the time where the hero moves through their greatest internal challenge, not in a not in a scary or bad way, but they realize that all it was always them. It was
Hmm.
always us. It was always we always had the power within. We always could fly. We always could sail. We always could navigate, and now we know what we're really made of. And with that confidence, we head into the new world.
Mm. I feel like I'm on the boat already. Maybe it
We
hasn't
are.
fully set sail, but I feel like I'm on that boat and I feel like I got on it like within the last week or two. Whereas like, oh, I got on the boat and now it's like we're waiting to go now. But
I
I'm excited
completely.
about where we're going. I can see then I have an idea what the new world is going to look like. It will probably be different, but I'm very excited for it. I feel like I'm in anticipation of something good. And and I do feel like I've been conjuring up that hero energy. Like I know where I'm going. There has been a definite knowing, and this is that inactive prep time. It's been like, how am I going to do it? I don't know. That feels really big. I don't know. Like, we've never done anything like that before. Who are we to do that? All of that stuff had to work its way out so that I could be on this boat right now, looking at the future, going, I can do this, and really feel that and not have that just be words that I'm saying to myself, like an affirmation that's filled with fear.
Right.
You
That's
know,
right. That's a big difference, isn't it?
it's all the difference because you can't bullshit your energy. You
Mm-mm.
can, words lie, thoughts lie, your energy never does. The universe knows when you're full of shit.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're showing up in fear, that's what it is. It is fear. But is there anything else you wanna tell our people before we release them off into Scorpio season?
Well, I will be making a video also on my YouTube about all of this. There's so much more that I want to be talking about. There's a lot of really specific checkpoints that it's too much to cover in something like this.
Yeah.
And also I realize I don't really have to. If you take what we just talked about, you navigate that. What if you are on a ship? What if you had
Mm.
an inkling inside of you to get on this ship and you've been preparing all this time and now you're on it? What is the experience of being on the ship for you? What happens on that ship? And what if you were the one that got to write that story? What if you're listening to us and you think we're telling you a story? What if we're just telling you the set and setting and you get to decide how all the characters are going to show up and play with each other, and you get to decide how the main character of your life navigates every single thing? Like, what if it really is playful and transformative? And what if you writing the story proves something to yourself about your nature that you've kind of suspected but have absolute proof of by the end of this month?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes more information is actually the enemy of really receiving it. So I think that what we give in these episodes, nobody's ever complained that we don't give enough. Everybody is like, I love these episodes. And I think it's because we touch on what they need for right now. And just come back to this, come back to the episode, listen to it again as you're going through the month. I know I do. I'm grateful for them. But so Instagram, stay in touch. They'll
Oh, yeah.
learn about your YouTubes and anything else that you do there.
That's
You
right.
follow her
Yep,
at
Instagram.
lunation.live. Of course, we will link this all up in the show notes. You can also DM me the word Christina, and and I will send you the links. That there'll be a little automation that sends you all of her links and stuff. So if you want to do it that way, you can. I'm at Nicole Leno Official. Speaking of my Instagram, please follow me over there. And we're also running the Authority Accelerator Masterclass coming up here in November. So please register for that. Just go to my DMs and DM me the word Masterclass. Again, at Nicole Leno Official, or go to the show notes and we have it all linked up for you there, NicoleLeno.com/masterclass. So I hope to see you there. Thank you for being here, my friend. Always, always such a pleasure to see you, and so grateful that you do these with me. They would not be the same without you. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this episode with us. We appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design. We will see you next time.